songs. And Jim McGarvey is the chairman of Backcountry Horsemen of America. And since he has been chairman in the last several months, we have seen a whole new look and face to Backcountry Horsemen of America. Jim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Gary. Good to be on. Thank you very much.
Always happy to have you on. And, there are a lot of things that are happening with Backcountry Horsemen of America. We want to talk about some of the legislation a little bit later that's pending and what that means to folks. But you just finished, not too long ago, a very successful crowdfunding campaign. And we talked a little bit about that as it was in progress, but kind of update us on how that turned out and what was the purpose for that.
Thanks, Gary. We started planning it towards the end of last year. Explain to some of the folks what crowdfunding means. It's a new concept that's only been out a couple of years, if that. And the idea is that you're able to raise money in the social media, if you will, rather than an envelope in the mailbox type of fundraising that we're used to over the years. And through contacts, through ease of use at a website. In this case, we use a website company called Indiegogo. It's the second largest, and it's the largest that does for 501(c)(3)s. And the way it works is you get your message out to your group or to others, and in this case, all of the trail users, the horse trail users, and the Backcountry Horsemen members, and invite them to come to site, see a video, read our story, and then we had opportunities for giving starting at $25 to $5,000, and with that we gave incentives from luggage tags to and up to $5,000 was a week in the wilderness in Oregon. And there were other trips. My wife Cindy and I are giving one ride with the chairman in the Smoky Mountain National Park here in a couple of weeks with some folks from Nevada, and we're looking forward to that. But it's a new way of doing things. People raise money for startups, so it's a capitalistic approach to raising money. All different kinds of things. It's worth going. And just investigating sites like Indiegogo and that. For example, the fellows that started Google, they own one of the sites,
right.
One of these type of sites, and so it's a good way to go. We kicked it off at our national board meeting in Chattanooga, which we had live streamed for our folks, and on the Friday night, last Friday of April, and went through to June 9th. We had hoped to raise, our goal was $50,000, and a foundation that asked to be remain anonymous, but is helping us over the years, did a challenge grant of $25,000 if we hit 50. Well, we hit that, and we hit $75,021 plus there were 25, so we went to $100,000. So
oh wow,
it was really successful. I think it shows the enthusiasm of our folks and the horse people. We had a lot of our chapters donated, and so what we're doing with the funds, there's a cost to doing this, of course, with the gifts and credit card fees, even those type of things. But
right.
We are giving $25,000 of it to be shared with our chapters in filing for grants through our Backcountry Horsemen of America Foundation. And the information for that will be coming out to the folks pretty shortly, and have a good part of the rest of the year to apply for different things at the local chapter level. And also, with the balance, we've been upgrading a lot of things with our whole organization, and the issues are looming larger for us also, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. So it just takes funds to keep fighting the good fight for our trails, and so we're going to devote our funds in that direction and keep working in the future for that type of thing. It's important, and often we're the vanguard horse organization out there, and to run with the big dogs, it costs a little bit more. So
it costs a little money. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so, but we're it's just so exciting. It was so much fun. A lot of work. Warn anybody that tries this to do it right. But it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun seeing all the communication going on among our. We're in 29 states with 174 chapters, and so it was a lot of fun. So.
Well, that's great. Well, we encourage people to become involved with Backcountry Horsemen of America. And if folks haven't been to the website, it's Backcountry Horse, isn't it?
Yeah, backcountryhorse.com and .org, but Backcountry Horse, yes.
Okay, backcountryhorse.com or .org, and the website's great. I mean, just a tremendous facelift to that in the last, several months, and easy to navigate, a lot of great information there. But I continue to tell people that regardless of whether you're a trail rider or if you're involved with horses at all, Backcountry Horsemen is an organization that you need to get involved with, because without our trail system and access to the trails by our trail riders, a market for horses that might not be participating in the arena or sports horse activities, there's not a place to go with those horses. And there are a lot of trail riders out there today. I would say 90% of the folks that are involved with horses are on the trails to some extent. So right. Backcountry Horsemen is the organization that is kind of leading the way on making sure that we continue to have access to trails and we don't lose any and maybe can gain some in some places. But and anyway, and I think too, I believe that the chairman has a pretty good partner in his spouse, because I almost believe Cindy kind of comes up with some of these ideas.
Yeah, she's a real spark plug. I tell folks that I wouldn't be chairman if I wasn't married to Cindy, because I think people say that, well, he can't be such a bad guy to be if he's married to Cindy. So. Yeah, she's a great help all the time, and I think we work as a team. Exactly what we do, and we met we lost both our spouses over the years, and so we met on a trail ride a few years back, and so we met on horses, and horses are our life. So there you go.
Gotcha. Well, I keep telling these guys out there, if you want to meet some really nice women, get out on the trails, because about 76% of the riders are women. So
yes.
It helps us so ugly guys to have the odds in our favor when we're out that way. So that's a good thing. We want to take a quick break and listen to a song called Under a Rolling Sky. I mean, all of the things that we do and are involved with are so that we can continue to enjoy being out and enjoying this country. And this one by our friend Michael Martin Murphy. But when we come back, Jim, I'd like to talk a little bit about some important legislation that is pending, and really what it means and how people can get involved in helping with that. So we're talking with Jim McGarvey, chairman of Backcountry Horsemen of America, and you're listening to Equestrian Legacy. Michael Martin Murphy's Under a Rolling Sky, and Jim, I just got a text message that said I need to mention our new Legacy Club. And we have started a Legacy Club for our listeners and our friends and fans out there. It is a free membership. And for our Legacy Club members, you receive discounts from our Legacy Club sponsors. We have monthly drawings for great prizes from our select sponsors. And then if you are a Legacy Club member, you're automatically entered in those drawings. And we have a great year-end drawing for a 2-horse portable water system from our premier sponsor, Hydro Horse. And you can visit them at hydrohorse.com for more information on this revolutionary watering system. But to enroll in the free Legacy Club and take advantage of the drawings for the great prizes, and to receive discounts from our Legacy Club sponsors, just visit our website at equestrianlegacy.net. So, we've been kind of overwhelmed. We just announced this club, Jim, about 2 days ago, and the memberships just keep flooding in. So we're tickled to death for that. Yeah, so some great benefits for folks, and it's our thank you just for listening to the show and joining us in our conversation with folks. So, but anyway, let's talk a little bit, Jim, about the legislation that is pending right now. And I think, is this something that you're working with the Wilderness Society?
It is, yeah. We're very close partners with the Wilderness Society, and this started about 3 years ago with one of our well thought of members, Dennis Daly in Wyoming, took the Wyoming Congresswoman's staff out for a trail ride and to show the poor condition of some of the trails in national forests. And Dennis had been with the Forest Service for 35 years, mostly working in the wilderness areas and a great horseman. And so they went ahead, the congressmen from Wyoming and Idaho and Virginia, and asked the General Accountability Office to do a study of the trail maintenance backlog, and they found they quantified it. It came out last summer, the report, and that most of the trails, vast majority of the trails, have not maintained a standard. Some are in deteriorating conditions, and a lot of it has to do with the flat budget. The trees keep growing, but the budget stays the same, and or less. And with the wildfires out west that they're taking dollars and manpower, it's becoming an untenable situation. So knowing that we couldn't ask for discretionary increase in funding from Congress in today's world, and maybe never, that we went together, the Wilderness Society, went through this report, and working very closely, put together a group of recommendations, both with our partners in the Forest Service. We worked with them closely, and also legislative language, and that was sponsored by Congresswoman Lummis of Idaho and Waltz of Minnesota. And we now have 17 co-sponsors at last count. And it's bipartisan. The Minnesota congressman is a Democrat and Wyoming is Republican. It's bipartisan because there's no ask for money. It's based on volunteers and cooperation with the Forest Service. Increasing in volunteering itself is not going to cure this, but it's just a start. And it's called House Bill. It's H.R. 4886. That's 4886. And there's a possibility of it getting passed this year. If folks can Google that, H.R. 4886 for 2014, and it in the 113th Congress. And if you have a contact with a staff or a congressman or a senator, please give them a call, send them an email or a letter, encouraging them to look at this. It's just 11 pages, and it's mainly encouraging the Forest Service and some legislative language needed to take better advantage of the volunteer resources that are out there. At least try to maximize them across the 155 national forests. And we're very excited about the progress it's making, and I think the Forest Service is too. Have visited in Washington a couple of times this summer, and we're very excited about it. So ask everybody listening to send their cards and letters on H.R. 4886. It's called the National Forest Trail Stewardship Act. Forest Trail Stewardship Act. So it's bipartisan. We're not asking for money, but we're working at it. So it's a couple of years project here.
Yeah, it's a challenge to get some of this legislation through. And even though you're not asking for funds, people still need to be encouraged. And so we'd encourage our listeners to get involved. Call your congressperson, ask them to support this bill, and of course, a lot of times the big thing is just getting them to bring it to a vote, isn't it?
It is, and there's one way that these do work. It's called the consent rule, and if there's no objection, it gets passed out of the Natural Resources Committee. It can be voted on, unanimous consent if no one objects, and that's a possibility. So instead of it being debated on the floor and going the way of trail dust, I guess you might say,
right.
This actually could pass with enough co-sponsors this year through a consent action, and that's maybe another term for folks to Google. But it's a matter of some of these non-controversial bills. They do go through, and they do keep the lights on in the government. So we're hoping that might be the path, and it needs some more co-sponsors, needs some help in the Senate to get it not only out of Congress, but out of the representatives, but also to the senators. So, but we got some high hopes.
Well, good. Well, now, tell our listeners why it's important for them to get involved and support this.
Yeah, the national parks. In this case, it happens to be the national forest is the topic of the GAO study, but the national parks are facing the same thing, and the state parks. There's just not enough funding. We're losing our trails, and we're going to be losing the horse trails first. There's other users out there. There's the hikers, the mountain bikers, families. There's runners. I mean, there's a lot of different users out there, hunters and fishermen and etc. But the horses can go some places that if those horse trails go, we lose access to the wilderness. We'll lose access to the front country, where a lot of our listeners, a lot of the horse people, to get to the back country, you have to start in the front country. So it's a lot of front country riding, which might be considered east of the Mississippi and where a lot of the horses and riders are. So it's important to keep those going. And as you mentioned earlier, I think you hit a good point there that if one section, let's say the three-legged stool of the horse industry generally is the trail people, which is a big leg. The other is the arena folks, and others can be the racing and more competitive, financially competitive parts of the industry. But eventually, all the horses go to pasture and go to trails. There's a lot of we had a racehorse with a thoroughbred with the number on under his lip, tattooed under his lip, and with dates. I mean, a lot of these competitive horses end up on trails, and it keeps the prices up, keeps the care of the horses, and we're going to lose them. And it's going to be the horses because the public agencies, the National Park Service, the Forest Service, and that, fewer and fewer of their employees and staff and management are horse-oriented anymore. It's not like the old days. The folks come from everywhere, from cities that work for them, and while they try, they don't quite understand completely the life we live with horses. And so we got to be out there. So.
Well, again, regardless of what your discipline is, it's important to keep these trails open to try to gain some new trails, and we all know of situations where trails in our part of the country have been closed to horse use, and it always comes back down primarily to having the funds to keep those trails maintained so that they can stay open. So again, H.R. 4886 is the House bill that you need to call your congresspeople about. A lot of you will see them out during this break and recess they're on, so if you see them personally, put the bug in the ear, but get on the phone and make some phone calls and ask them to support this. And a good time to be doing that. They can get some things done when they come back in session in a few weeks. So we encourage that as well. What else is going on with Backcountry Horsemen?
Well, there's one that's it's an odd word. It's called FLREA. It's the FLREA, the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act, and that's coming up for reauthorization. And that's the instance again in the national parks and forests and the federal lands where they'll able to charge, say, a $5 parking fee at the trailhead or that type of thing if it's an improved trailhead with an outhouse or, more modern outhouse or facilities, just enhanced facilities. And so we're watching that very closely. For the first time, the word horse riders have been in the legislation. It was sort of inferred that we were out there. They didn't name every user that goes down a trail, but this year we've gotten so far the language we're in it. And the idea with FLREA is that 80% of the funds go back to the local, if not that parking lot, at least to the ranger district or the federal agency, tries to keep it close to where it was collected. What we're watching very closely is that they don't charge for access, like just go down a Forest Service road and then pull off if it's a good place and ride on a trail and go into the woods. It's called a bridle fee, and we watch it very closely. It's a bit of a controversial fee because of the nature of, we pay our taxes, so why should they charge a fee? So it's all over the spectrum, not only, with all users in the public lands, not just horse people, but it'll probably pass. It's been 100 years this year that the government started charging somebody something to get on public lands in the national parks and that. So it's kind of the centenary here of this kind of thing. So we're watching that. It will go through. We're almost certain, but it's just want to make sure that the language helps the horses. And then something else I've been working on that's really interesting, and a lot of folks don't know about it, but about 4 years ago, the president, the White House, came out with called the Great Outdoors Initiative, and it was just to get folks away from the TVs and video games that, and out in public, just anywhere outside. And so the Backcountry Horsemen, the chairman, Terry Morrison from Utah at the time, went to the White House and for other activities in Washington to kick this off. And so it's been going along. And this summer, another acronym, it's called FICOR, the Federal Interagency on Recreation, Federal Interagency Council on Recreation, which is the 6 land managers of the federal government, Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, Park Service, and Fisheries, and they invited. There was 3 meetings this summer. It started out with about 35 outdoor users, so canoe people, the Wilderness Society, a lot of just almost you name it. There was folks that were out there. Even, for instance, the Vail Corporation, because they use Forest Service land, and they're using it all year round now for activities. But to keep in mind here why this is important and why the Backcountry Horsemen, need to stick to it, we are the only horse-oriented organization at the table in this.
Wow.
And so it's like we're defending the horses in the outdoors. I mean, it's that's what we're doing, the Backcountry Horsemen. And so we've been a strong participant. I make sure, and our folks make sure that our voice is heard. And we're in a great arrangement. I mean, a great relationship with the federal agencies. We have memorandums of understanding with them, and our partner, the Wilderness Society, is also at that table. But it's the last meeting there were just 12 outside groups, and that's all that were invited. And at Washington. So keep that in mind. It's the Great Outdoors Initiative, and there's several parts to it, but we're doing our part to keep the trails and the horses out there on the public lands. So. Well,
that's great. Well, we do have to have a seat at the table. If not, we'll always take a back seat to some of the other interest out there. And I think it's great that Backcountry Horsemen understand that we have to be working with these other groups so we can all enjoy access to what really is our American heritage and legacy, and that's continued use of these public lands that we get to enjoy. Our time has run out again. We're just, time goes by too quickly. I do want to mention that we are just excited to death to have partnered with Backcountry Horsemen of America to be on our program every month. And we're going to be shifting over in September. We started a new program this past Tuesday night called Saddle Up America. And that program is dedicated to the trail riders, which are about 90% of the horse people out there. And we're tickled to death to have Backcountry Horsemen to become part of that show beginning the first Tuesday night in September. So, Jim, we're looking forward to talking with you the first Tuesday in September. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some other partners that are joining us on there. One is Robert Eversole, who is known as the Trailmeister, and he's been real active with Backcountry Horsemen, particularly in Washington, and speaks at a lot of places with Backcountry Horsemen. So he's a regular guest. And then Susanna Gibson, who is the publisher of Trailblazer magazine, is joining us for a regular segment. So we have the who's who that are joining us on Tuesday nights for Saddle Up America, and as well as visiting with great riding destinations across the country. So we look forward to that, Jim, and as always, enjoy having you on the show. You always have great information.
Thank you,
Gary. And we'll talk to you again the first Tuesday night in September.
Well, thank you, Gary. Hello, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Talk with you soon. Thanks so much. Well, I hope you've enjoyed